Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really mind-bending question. What if the structure of the entire universe, something we've only just started to understand using supercomputers, was actually described with incredible accuracy in a text that's over 1,400 years old? Let's take a look at the cosmic web.
Okay, so let's start with a huge question. If you could just zoom all the way out, way past our galaxy, past all the galaxies, what would you see? What is the actual shape of the universe? Is it just chaos, or is there some kind of underlying order?
For the longest time, astronomers basically pictured the universe as a random mess, kind of like someone just spilt a bag of marbles on the floor. Galaxies just scattered all over the place. But it turns out 21st century science has shown us something completely shocking. The universe is anything but random. It actually has a definite, interconnected structure.
So how did we figure this out? Well, this new reality, this incredible cosmic architecture, wasn't discovered by just looking through a bigger telescope. Nope, it was revealed by some of the most powerful supercomputer simulations that have ever been created, all designed to map the universe on its absolute largest scales.
One of the most famous of these simulations is called the Millennium Simulation. Back in 2005, it just crunched unbelievable amounts of data, and for the first time, it showed us a picture of a universe that's intricately structured. It totally proved that old marbles on the floor idea was just completely wrong.
And astronomers gave this structure a name that just perfectly captures what it looks like: the cosmic web. It's this enormous filamentary network where entire galaxies are literally strung along these colossal, invisible threads, almost like pearls on a string.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. The skeleton of this whole thing, what's holding it all together, is made of invisible dark matter. And the pattern it makes, it looks almost identical to other complex networks we see in nature, from the neurons firing in our own brains to the actual look of woven cloth.
Okay, so hold that image of a woven universe in your mind. Because this cutting-edge, 21st century discovery has a surprising and, frankly, an incredibly ancient parallel that seems to echo the very same idea.
For this, we have to travel back in time over 1,400 years to a specific verse in the Quran, in a chapter called Ad-Dariyat. It describes the sky, the cosmos, using a very, very particular and pretty unusual Arabic word.
That word is Al-Hubuk. Now, this isn't just some vague poetic term. In Arabic, it has a really precise and complex meaning. It refers specifically to a woven, knitted, or interlaced structure. Think about the tightly woven threads in a piece of fabric, or those complex, crisscrossing ripples that wind makes on the sand. That's Al-Hubuk.
So here's the crucial question. What do we make of this connection? Is this just a beautiful piece of poetry, a wild coincidence, or could it be something, a little more significant?
Well, the main skeptical argument is actually a pretty reasonable one. It suggests that Hubuk is just a poetic way of describing the visible paths, the tracks, if you will, of stars and planets as they move across the night sky. And that's something ancient people could have easily seen for themselves.
But if you do a deeper dive into the language, there are three really strong counterarguments. First off, Hubuk describes a texture, like a complex surface of fabric, not simple single lines like orbits. Second, the verse says the sky itself is woven, not just the paths of the planets moving within the sky. And finally, you have to think about the statistical improbability of it all. Of all the words you could use to describe the sky, vast, high, blue, bright, why would you pick the one specific word for knitted fabric, a word that just happens to perfectly match the structure we found centuries later with supercomputers?
So let's do it. Let's put modern science and this ancient text side by side. Because when we do, the parallel becomes, pretty much impossible to ignore.
The comparison is just striking. Science today calls it a web. The ancient text calls it a hubuk. Both words mean woven. Science describes filaments. The ancient word describes an interlaced texture. The concepts are functionally identical. When you really break it down, the overlap in meaning between the modern scientific term web and this 1,400-year-old word hubuk, it isn't just close. We're talking about a perfect 100% match.
And that, right there, is the big takeaway. The universe isn't a box of random marbles. It's an intricate, beautiful, woven web. And somehow an ancient text described this exact weave long, long before we ever had the technology to even glimpse the threads.
Which really leaves us with one final question to think about. Is this incredible alignment of knowledge, separated by centuries, just a remarkable coincidence of language and poetry? Or could it be evidence of something more profound? a kind of code embedded in an ancient text, just waiting for science to finally catch up?